Welcome to The Deep Dive. We're the show that helps you get right to the heart of your sources, pulling out the key insights, the really fascinating stuff.
Basically getting you well-informed fast.
Exactly. And today, we are diving deep into Pixar's 2022 film, Turning Red, a really acclaimed movie.
Oh, absolutely.
We want to go beyond just the animation, the great songs, and really ask, how did this film connect so strongly? How did it feel so personal, but also so universal?
Yeah, it nails that balance. And, a huge part of that has to be the director, Domee Shi.
Right, she did Bow first,
Yeah.
the Oscar-winning short.
That's the one. So Turning Red was her big feature debut as sole director, which is a pretty big deal for Pixar.
Definitely.
And what makes it super interesting, I think, is how personal it is. It's deeply rooted in her own Chinese-Canadian background growing up in Toronto.
You really feel that, don't you? It's not just a setting.
No, it's baked into the story itself.
And that personal touch, it just brings that early 2000s Toronto setting alive. It's more than just nostalgia.
Totally, like the Tamagotchis, the boy band craze.
Oh yeah, the boy bands. It captures that specific moment, doesn't it? Like
Yeah.
pre-social media overload.
Exactly, and it sets up this really interesting clash, Traditional family expectations bumping up against that Western pop culture Mei is diving into.
Which is right at the core of her whole emotional roller coaster.
Absolutely, and the detail is just, well, it's Pixar, right? So it's incredible. Mei's house, the school, the family temple. It all feels so real, so lived in. Even the music, getting Billie Eilish and Phineas to do the songs for Four Town, the fictional boy band.
That was genius. They sound exactly like they should for that era.
Right. It just nails that teen experience, grounds Mei's big feelings in something very, very relatable for anyone who was that age.
So let's talk about Mei herself. Mei Lee, she's 13, she's smart, confident, a bit quirky.
Yeah, navigating all that classic teenage stuff, school pressure, trying to fit in, figuring out who you are.
But her story gets this extra layer, this real complexity, because of her mom, Ming.
Ming, the overprotective mother. Very loving, but expects Mei to be this perfect, dutiful daughter, always putting family first.
That dynamic is so central. But Mei isn't alone in this, right, Chi? Her friends are key.
Oh, hugely important. Miriam, Priya, and Abby, they are her ride or die crew.
Yeah, they're her rock, her
Yeah.
support system as she's going through all this change.
And you've also got her dad, Jin, who's quieter, calmer, and then the whole sort of mystical side with her ancestors. It's a rich picture.
It really is. And that core tension you mentioned earlier, Mei wanting her own thing versus what her family, especially her mom, expects.
That's not just background noise. It becomes the big metaphor of the movie.
The giant red panda.
The giant red panda.
So Mei finds out she's got this family thing, this curse, where if she gets too emotional, too excited, too angry,
Poof.
poof, she turns into this massive, fluffy red panda.
And it's obviously a metaphor for, puberty, right? The messiness, the big emotions you can't control. For sure, puberty, feeling overwhelmed. But I think it goes deeper, too. It taps into this idea of, inherited emotional stuff. Generational baggage.
How so?
Well, we learned her mom, Ming, went through the same thing with her own panda. And maybe she didn't fully deal with it, right? She suppressed it.
Ah.
So that unresolved conflict, that pressure to control everything, it kind of gets passed down to Mei. It's not just her emotions, it's almost like this ancestral force erupting.
That makes sense. So the film asks that question. How does all that external pressure, especially from family, actually change you on the inside, literally in Mei's case?
Exactly. It's not just making her sad or stressed, it physically transforms her. Her mom's intense need for control, for Mei to suppress certain feelings.
Directly triggers the panda. It makes the metaphor so powerful, so visceral.
Yeah. And what I find really, really insightful is how the film kind of flips the script on the usual tame the beast story.
Right. She doesn't defeat the panda or lock it away forever.
No, she learns to live with it. She integrates it, which suggests, true self-acceptance isn't about cutting off the parts of yourself you don't like or that others don't like.
It's about embracing the whole package, even the messy, furry, emotional parts.
Precisely, which leads us right into the big themes. Turning Red really explores so well.
First up has to be identity and self-acceptance. Mei's whole journey is about learning to be okay with all of herself.
Yeah, accepting the panda means accepting her strong emotions, her passions, her imperfections. The film really shows how trying to hide parts of yourself just causes more pain, more conflict inside.
And then there's the parent-child relationship theme. It feels so specific to the Chinese-Canadian immigrant experience in some ways.
It definitely is, and that specificity is brilliant. But the core dynamics, the generational gaps, parents projecting their fears or hopes onto their kids, that's incredibly universal, isn't it?
Totally. You see how Ming's own past, her own relationship with her panda and her mother, directly shapes how she parents Mei, often out of love, but still.
Still potentially stifling, yeah. It's handled with a lot of nuance.
And the panda itself, as we said, is just this perfect symbol for growing up and change. Not just puberty, but the whole chaotic emotional transition.
An upheaval, yeah. Moving from childhood towards adulthood, it's messy. And the film doesn't shy away from that messiness. It celebrates the reconciliation part of it.
And through all that messiness, her friends, Miriam, Priya, Abby, they are just golden.
Absolutely crucial. They see the panda, they freak out for like a second, and then they're just there for her.
Yeah, they help her navigate it, even monetize it for a bit. It shows how vital that peer support is when you're figuring yourself out.
Definitely. They accept her, panda and all, which helps her accept herself.
So when you put it all together, Turning Red is funny, it's heartfelt, looks amazing, of course.
Classic Pixar visual richness, yeah.
But it blends that signature Pixar storytelling with something so culturally specific, so personal. And yet, it resonates so broadly.
Because those core feelings, growing up, family tension, finding yourself, friendship, those are things we all grapple with, right?
Right. And the final message feels so earned. The growing up is messy, but embracing your true authentic self, even the wild parts.
Especially the wild parts, maybe, that it's absolutely worth it.
It really is.
So maybe, as you're thinking about Mei's journey, consider this. That messiness of growing up, you know, the emotional ups and downs, the push and pull between what you want and what others expect. Maybe it's not just a phase you get through.
Okay.
Maybe it's more like an ongoing process, this constant integration, figuring out how to live with all the different parts of yourself, the parts that maybe feel a bit panda-like. That process shapes us throughout life, doesn't it?
That's a really interesting thought. How do we keep navigating our own transformations, our own pandas, big or small?
Yeah. What does embracing our own wildness look like at different stages of life? Something to chew on.
Definitely something to think about. We really encourage you maybe rewatch the film with some of this in mind, or just reflect on your own experiences, see what insights pop up.